The evil will perish. Vatamarom leolam Adonai, but you, God, will be on high forever. Ki neovecha Adonai, ki neovecha yovedu, yitpardu kol polei aven, vatarem kirem karni, baloti beshemen ra'anan, vatabeteni beshurai, bakamim alai mireim tishman oznai. Tadikata marifrach ke'eres balva no niske shetulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu o yenuvun beseva deshenim v'ra'ananim hiyu lehagid Ki ashar Adonai turi velo havlatabo. Shabbat shalom to those who just joined us from the vineyard, I think, Norma, and from Provincetown or from Cambridge, I'm not sure. Susan?
Cambridge.
Shabbos, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
And here in Brookline, good Shabbos, everyone here at 1550 Beacon Street. We have Ruth in the front row and Thelma, and then in the back row we have Annette. So welcome to everyone.
Good to see you.
Sunny
Glad
Brookline.
You're here with us. And we turn now to page 136 for Ashrei, which we do responsively. It's an acrostic that's we could see spelled out the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, and so forth. Rabbi Jim, do you want to be respondent on this, right, with your mask on, or?
I'm going to ask Miriam if you're willing to do it. I'm still dealing with some technical issues here, so.
Okay. Miriam with hibiscus in back of you, right? Very nice. So, okay, so you please respond. Everybody else should remain muted. Ashrei yoshvei beitecha od yahalalu chasela.
Ashreyam shekakalo, Ashreyam shadonai Eloha.
Tehila leDavid arimimcha Elohai hamelech va'avarcha shemcha leolam va'ed.
V'kol yom avarchecha, v'hal shemcha leolam va'ed.
Gadol Adonai umehulal me'od v'ligdulato ein cheker.
Dor ledor yishavach ma'asecha, gvurotecha yagidu.
Hadar kivododecha v'divrei niflaotecha asicha.
Ve'ezuz naortecha yomeru, u'tzula, u'gedulatecha asaprena.
Zecher achtuvcha yabi'u v'sitkatcha yiranenu.
Hanun rachum Adonai, erika payim udol hased.
Tov Adonai lakol v'rachamav al kol ma'asav.
Yoduk Adonai kol ma'asecha, v'hasidecha yivarucha.
Kivod malchutcha yomeru, gvuratcha yiraberu.
Lahodia linei adam gevurotav, ukavod adar malchutoho.
Malchutcha malchut kol olamim, umemshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor.
Zomech Adonai l'kol hanoflim, v'zokeis l'kol hakfufim.
Einecho lenecha yisaberu, v'atan noten lahem et ochlam be'ito.
Poteach et yadecha, u'masbir l'kol chai ratzon.
Tzadik Adonai b'chol derachav, v'chasid b'chol ma'asav.
Karov Adonai l'kol korav, l'kol asher yikrahu v'emet.
Shomer Adonai et kol ohavav, v'et kol al-shahim. Does that leave something out? Tony Reyav Yosef, v'et shavatam yishma v'yoshi'em.
Shomer Adonai et kol ohavav, v'et kol hashahim yashmid.
Tilat Adonai yedaber pihi, v'yivarech kol basar shem kodsho le'olam va'ed.
V'anachnu nivorek ya, me'ata v'yad olam, hallelujah.
Thank you, Miriam. We now turn to page 141 for the last psalm of the psalm book, Psalm 150. This is a good one to join in on even with your mutes on, but to have a feeling of being part of this, service. It's a little hard in Zoom to feel quite participatory, but here we are on page 141. As soon as I find it. Hallelujah, 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 el bekocho, hallelujah, hallelujah, pirkia uzo. Hallelujah, 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 be Burotav, hallelujah, hallelujah, Kerov, good Lord. Hallelujah, 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 beteka shofar, hallelujah, hallelujah, betnever v'chinor. Hallelujah, 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 betofu machol, hallelujah, hallelujah, b'minim be'ugav. Hallelujah, 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 betil tzele shama, hallelujah, hallelujah, betil tzele truah. Kol harashama, hallelujah, te hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol shama te hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol shama te hallelujah, hallelujah. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen v'amen. Baruch Adonai mitzion shochen Yerushalayim, hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Elohim Elohei Yisrael, Hosei niflau levado, Baruch Shem kibodo le'olam, v'malei kibodo kol haaretz, amen v'amen. On page 145. Nishmat kol chai, may the soul of every living being. Nishmat kol chai, tevarech et shemcha, Adonai Eloheinu, v'ruch kol basar tevarech. מן העולם ביד העולם. מבלעדיך אין לנו מלך כהן המשיח, קודם מציל, מפרנס ומרחם, בכל עת צרה וצוקה, אין לנו מלך אלא אתה. Elohei הראשונים והאחרונים, God of the first, God of the last, Eloah kol briot, of all creatures, Adon kol tulados, and of all generations, המהולל ברוב התשבחות, המנהג עולמו בחסד, ובריאותיו ברחמים. ואדוני לא ינום ולא יישן, המעורר ישנים, המקיץ נרדמים, והמסיח חלמים, והמתיר אסורים, והסומך נופלים, וזוקף כפופים, לך לבדך אנחנו מודים. אילו פינו מלא שירה קיים, if our mouths were full of song like the sea, ולשוננו רינה כמון גליו, ושפתותינו שבח כמרחבי רקיע, ועינינו מאירות כשמש וכירח, וידינו פרוסות כנשרי שמיים, ורגלינו קלות כאיילות, אין אנחנו מספיקים, it still wouldn't be enough, מספיקים להודות לך, to acknowledge you, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, ולברך את שמך על אחת מאלף, אלפי אלפים, וריבי רבבות, פעמים הטובות שעשית עם אבותינו ועם אמותינו ועמנו. Page 146. ממצרים גלתנו, you redeemed us from Egypt, אדוני אלוהינו, ומבית עבדים פדיתנו, בארצנו. ומכל רעים רעים ונאמנים דליתנו, עד הנה עזרונו רחמך, ולא עזבונו חסדיך, ואל תיטשנו אדוני אלוהינו לנצח. על כן, איברים שפילגת בנו, all our various parts of our bodies and our soul, praise you. ברוח ונשמה שנפחת בפינו ואפינו, ולשון אשר שמת בפינו, הן הם יודו ויברכו וישבחו, ויפארו וירוממו ויריצו ויקדישו וימליכו את שמך מלכנו. Ki chol peh lecha yodeh, and every mouth shall acknowledge you. V'chol lashon lecha tishava, v'chol berech lecha tichra, every knee will bend to you. V'chol koma lefanecha tishtachaveh, v'chol levavot yerahucha, v'chol kerev uchlayot yizamru lishmecha, kadavar shekatuv, kol atzmotai tomarna, all my bones, all my parts will say, Adonai mi chamocha, Lord, who is like you? Because lo mi belach mi shvelach mi aroch האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל עליון קונה שמיים וארץ נהלל לך שבכנפיך נברך את שם קודשך כאמור לדוד ברכי נפשי את אדוני בכל קרבי את שם קודשו האל בתעצומות עוזך הגדול בכבוד שמך הגיבור לנצח והנורא בנורתך המלך היושב על כיסא עולם ונישא. Shabbat shalom to everyone. Rabbi Jim, do you want to say anything before?
Yeah, just good Shabbos, everyone. It's so nice to be actually in a room with other people for Shabbos. It's such a nice change of pace. So we did Kabbalat Shabbat last night here, and back here for Shacharit this morning. So I am hoping that I have figured out how to put the thing on the screen successfully. We'll see how we do, and I welcome everyone. I think Susan, you're going to be reading doing Shacharit, right?
Yep.
All right.
I'll say one thing. It's Zoom is not so great in many ways, but it's really nice that it can bring people together who otherwise would not be in the same place. And so we welcome the people at 1550. That's the address, right? Jim?
Yep.
Yeah. And all of us to be together. And we are looking forward to a time when we can be together and more
in person. It'll be
in person. Actually,
more people in person.
More people in person. I'm actually this year going to be able to have a little Seder in person with family who have been. We've all been vaccinated, and the CDC tells us we can be unmasked in each other's presence. Isn't that wonderful? So anyway, Susan, to you, we're at page 147 and the middle of the page.
Are you going to put the sitter on, Jim, or not?
Yeah, give me one moment, and we will make it. We're going to make it happen. I'm just switching the video so that you can see people from the other angle.
Just in case you're wondering, this is not a ritual visor. It's a very strong sun coming in here.
Yeah, you look like an accountant there over.
I thought I looked like a newspaper man in an old movie.
Oh, well, maybe that's what it is.
So it's
There's worse things to look like. So I apologize for the delay. Still trying to figure out the what's the word I'm looking for?
Nice picture of the ceiling.
Yes, it's very nice, isn't it? It is a very nice ceiling. You need to know what a great ceiling it is. Hold on.
Well, if you're gonna put the Siddur on, then I can do it.
It looks like acoustic tile, which is a very good thing to have.
It is.
You're scheduled next week, Norma.
What?
You're next week, Norma.
Week now.
Yeah.
I understand.
There we go. Okay.
But I didn't know you were putting. I left my Siddur back in Boston, so.
It's
right,
a grievous fault.
You'll get some sense of who's in the room here by doing this. Okay.
Good morning, Harvey.
Good morning.
Shabbat shalom. And Petra.
Shabbat shalom.
Yeah.
Lauren.
So we're vamping until ready when
Right.
Jim is able to put the text on the screen. And here we go. Looks like almost. Now we just have to wait for the right page and then we'll be terrific.
We're on page 147 for those following along in the book.
We can perhaps Go ahead, Susan, maybe, and soon enough, Jim, there we go. Looks like
Okay.
we're there.
Okay.
There we go, Shochenat. Good.
Shochenad marom v'kadosh shemo v'chatuv rananu tzadikim badonai la'yesharim nava tehila v'fi yesharim tithala uvdivrei tzadikim titporach uvilshon chasidim titromam uv'kerev kadoshim titkadash uv'makalot rivavot amacha beit Yisrael Shekain chovat koyitzurim lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu lehodot lehalel l'shabeach all kol divrei shirot v'tishbechot David ben Yishai avdecha meshichecha. Please rise if you're able. Page 148. Yishtabach Shimacha La'ad Malkeinu. We all know how to go over the doors. Shir Shabach Alev Zimra Ozman Shua Netzach Yodivah Light Park Shat Mokro Barachot Bahodot Be'atav Yad Olam Baruch Atah Adonai El Melchador Batishbachot El HaHodaot Adon HaNiflaot Bocher B'Shirei Zimra Melech El Cheholamim
Amen.
Yitkadav Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah
Amen.
Yom Adivrak Yirtei V'Yamlech Malchutei B'Chayikon V'Yamechon V'Chayeda Chol Beit Yisrael V'Agolav Bizman Kariv V'Yimaru Amen.
Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabba Mevarach V'Yalam Ulamei Maya.
Yitbarak V'Yishtabak V'Yitpar V'Yitramam V'Yitnaseh V'Yitadar V'Yitalev V'Yitala Shemei Kudashah
Richu.
Le'ela Mincho Birchata V'Shirata Tushbachata V'Nechamata Damiran V'Yoma V'Yimaru Amen.
Amen.
Baruch Hu Et Adonai HaMavorach.
Baruch
Baruch Adonai Borach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai HaMavorach Leolam Va'ed. Page 150, be seated. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam Yotzer or Borei Choshech Oseh Shalom Uborei et Hakol Hakol Yoducha v'Hakol Yishabachucha. Continue at the little red triangle on page 150. Ein kirkecha v'ein zulatecha efes biltecha umidom elach. Ein kirkecha v'ein zulatecha efes biltecha umidom elach. Ein kirkecha ba'olam hazeh v'ein zulatecha ha'olam haba. Efes biltecha limod hamashiach v'ein domeh lecha lichiat hametim. El Adon al kol hamasim baruch u'barach b'fi kol neshama gadlo v'tuvo male olam da'at u'tvuna so b'vimoto hamikael al chayot hakodesh v'nedar b'chavo al hamerkava zechud u'mishor lifnei chiso chesed v'rachamim lifnei kvodo Tovim miorot shebara Eloheinu yitzaram b'da'at b'vina uv'haskel koach uvura natan bahem liot moshlim b'kerev tevel meleim ziv u'mafikim noga Noezivam b'chol ha'olam, Samechim b'teitam, V'sasim b'voam, Osim b'yema ritzon konam, Be'er v'chavod, Notnim lishmot ha'lavarina, L'zecher malchuto, Kara l'shemesh, Vayizrach ora v'hiki, Turat havana, Shevach notnim lo, Kol tzeva marom, Tiferet u'gedula, Serafim v'yofanim v'chayot hakodesh, Yala la la la, Yala la la, Yala la la la, Yala la 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 la, Yala la la la, Yala la la, Yala la la la, Yala la la la. Ya la ya la 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 ya la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Continue on page 152 silently. El asher shavat mikol ma'asim. Continue on page 153. Tiporak, Surenu, Malkenu, Vago, Alenu. Kulam ahuvim, kulam berurim, kulam giborim, v'kulam osim bi'ema, v'yira ritzon konam, v'kulam pochim et pihem, b'kedushav tahara, b'shira v'zimra, u'mvarchim, u'mshabachim, u'farim, u'maritzim, u'makdishim, u'mamlichim. Et shem ha'el ha'melech ha'gadol, ha'gibor v'hanora kadoshu. V'chulam mekablim aleihem. O malchut shamayim ze mizeh. V'chulam mekablim aleihem. O malchut shamayim ze mizeh. V'chulam mekablim aleihem. O malchut shamayim ze mizeh. V'chulam mekablim aleihem. O malchut shamayim ze mizeh, v'notnim b'shuta lazeh, l'afishus, ruach, v'sifa, ruach, v'shak, kulam k'echad, onim v'yomrim b'yirah. Kadosh, 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 Adonai, tzvaot, meloch ha'aretz kavodo. V'afanim v'chayot hakodesh, barash kadol minasim limat serafim, limatam meshabachim v'yomrim. Baruch kavod Adonai mimkomo, la'el baruch limo itenu. Yom Tamid Yosei Bereshit Kamor Yosei Omrim Gedolim Ki Leolam Chasto. Or Chadash al Tzion Ta'ir, or Chadash al Tzion Ta'ir, v'nizkeh chulanu me'hera li'oro. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot. Continue, page 154. Let's sing together behind our mutes. Ahava Rabba Avtanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chemla Gedola V'Teira, Chamalta Aleinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Bavur Avotenu V'Imotenu, Shebatchu V'cha, Avinu Malkeinu, Vat Lamden Chukei Chaim, Kain techanenu lamdenu avinu ha'av ha'rachama amrachem rachem aleinu V'tein b'libeinu lahavinu lahaskil lishmoa lilmod u'lilamed lishmor v'laso ukayem et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha b'ahava v'ha'erinenu b'toratecha v'dabech libeinu b'mitzvotecha v'yached levavenu li'ahava u'yira et shemecha v'ha'erinenu b'toratecha v'dabech libeinu b'mitzvotecha v'yached levavenu li'ahava u'yira et shemecha v'lo nevosh li'olam va'ed v'lo nevosh li'olam va'ed ki v'shem kadshecha agadol v'hanora b'tachnu nagila 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 v'nismecha b'yeshuatecha Havienu l'shalom me'aba kanfo ha'aretz v'tolichenu k'mimut li'artzenu ki el poel yeshuot ata uvanu v'acharta mikol am v'lashon v'keravtanu l'shimcha hagadol sela b'yamet l'hodot l'cha u'yacherecha b'yahava baruch ata Adonai Habocher b'yamo Yisrael b'ahava. Page 155. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'kol levacha b'kol nafshecha b'kol miodecha. V'hayu ha'dvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al vavecha. V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shiftecha b'beitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shaktecha u'kumecha u'kshartam liot al yadecha v'hayu l'totafot bein einecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha. Continue silently on page 156. Adonai Elohechem emet. Continue at the top of page 157. L'dor vador hu kayam, ushmo kayam, v'chiso nachonu malchuto, v'emunato, la'ad kayam et. Malkeinu melech avotenu v'imotenu go aleinu go el avotenu v'imotenu yotzreinu tzur yeshuatenu podenu matzilenu me'olam shemecha ein Elohim zulatecha Ezrat avotenu v'imotenu atahu me'olam. Together, the bottom of page 157. Emet, Emet, Emet Atahu Rishon, Emet, Emet, Emet Atahu Acharon, Umi Baladecha, Ein Lanu Melech, Melech Goel Moshiach, Umi Baladecha, Ein Lanu Melech, Melech Goel Moshiach. You silently at the top of page 158. And together, about a third of the way down. Ram v'nisa gadol v'nora mashpil gein umagbiya shifalim motzi asirim v'fod anavim v'ozer dalim. Vione liamo, vione liamo, bi'et shavam elav. Tehilot la'el elyon, tehilot la'el elyon. Baruch hu mevorach. Moshe u'Miriam u'vnei Yisrael. Moshe u'Miriam Uvnei Yisrael lecha anu shira. Besimcha rabba, besimcha rabba v'yamru kulam. Mi chamocha bo'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh nora tehilot osefele shira chadasha shibru gulim l'shimcha osafat hayam yachad kulam hodu v'himlichu v'yamaru Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Please rise if you're able. Zur Yisrael, Kuma Ezrat Yisrael, Ufdechinu Mecha, Yehuda Yisrael. Go Aleinu Adonai Tzvaot Shemo Kedosh
Israel.
Baruch Atah
Adonai.
All Yisrael. Page 159, the Amida. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu V'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Leah El Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora El Elyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imaot V'Goel L'Fnei B'Neihem L'man Shemo B'Ahava Melech Ozer Moshiach Magin. Baruch atah Adonai Magin Avraham Uvokei Sarah Atah Gibor Mashiach Mashiva Ruach Umarid Hagashem Mechaker Chayim Bechesed Mechayim Meitim Berachamim Rabim So make noflim Berofei Cholim Umatir Asurim Umakayim Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot Umido Melach Melech Umachaye Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'emanatah Hayot Meitim Baruch atah Adonai Mechaye HaMeitim
Nekadesh Shemcha B'olam Kashem Shema Kishimot Vishmei Marom Kakatuv Al Yad Neviach V'Karazeh El Zev Yamaha
לקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ויאמר.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, Melech kol haaretz kevodo. Ahaz b'kol ra'ash gadol adir, v'chazak mashmi'im kol, minas'im l'mat tzarafim, l'matam baruch yomeru.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, Melech kol haaretz kevodo. אז בקול רעש גדול אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול מתנסים לעומת צרפים למתם ברוך יאמרו.
Baruch kavod Adonai mimakomo, ממקומכם אלוקינו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו כמכריחים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון בקרוב בימינו לעולם בעת תשכון. תיקדש ותקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך לדור ודור לנצח נצחים.
Baruch kavod Adonai ממקומך אלוקינו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו כמחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון בקרוב בימינו לעולם בעת תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים. בעינינו תאירנה מלכותך כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך על ידי דוד משיח צדקך.
ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור הללויה.
ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון לדור ודור הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גדלך לנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם בעת. כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
Amen.
Continue silently to page 166. And we'll conclude Shacharit with Kaddish Shalem on page 167. Yikadavi Kadashime Rabbah.
Amen.
Samadi Rakirte, Yamlith Makute, Kona Yamekona, Kayedafo Bait Yisrael, Bagalavis Mankari, Yamaru.
Amen. Yesh meira b'mivara. Olam amaya.
Yitbarak, Yishtabak, Yitar, Vitramam, Vitnaseh, Vitagar, Vitalev, Vitalal, Shemet, Kudasha.
Riku.
Elam in Kobirkata, Vishirata, Tishvachata, Venechamata, Damiran, Biama, Yamaru.
Amen.
Yitabel, Slotahon, Vutahon, Decho Yisrael, Kadama, Vahon, Divishmaya, Yamaru.
Amen.
Shlama Rabba Mishmaya V'Chaim Aleinu V'Yalko Yisrael V'Yimaru
Amen.
Shalom B'Imromav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'Yalko Yisrael V'Yimaru
Amen.
Oseh Shalom
Shalom b'Rama.
Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'Yalko Yisrael V'Yimaru Amen. That's it. Rabbi Jim, you're on.
Here. Oh, there we go. Okay. I got too many machines here, so try to figure it all out. So Connie has joined us here, and let me see who's joined us on the larger screen. So Ruth is here, and Jerry. Hello, Norma and Carol is here, which is great. Marsha and John, Petra and Lauren and Susan Yashikoach on beautiful Shacharit, and there's someone hiding behind this little box on my. Oh, that's Jim Leffert. Hello, Jim. And Sherry and Ellen from Cambridge is here, but not Ellen from Brookline, and Yashikoach Norman on Pesuka de Zimra, and Miriam, thank you for all your help. And Susan Cohen is here too. So if I've forgotten anyone, I apologize. And just to repeat, in the room here, you can see, I think everybody, although they're small in my little screen, we've got Ruth and Thelma in the front row, and then we have Connie and Annette in the back row. And because we're sitting so safely, we have no one in the middle row. It's very exciting. All right, so we're going to switch now to our Torah reading, which begins in chapter 3 of Vayikra. So there's a little bit of, I only have one Chumash here, so it's in English, but I have plenty of Chumashim that are in Russian. So if anyone would like one that just so you can follow along the Hebrew, I can get that to you. And the one Chumash, maybe we'll have. Yeah, I see. Oh yes, my gosh. All right, so let's see. Who would like the English? Anyone like the English? Okay.
Thank you.
And right, you can. And I didn't. It didn't even occur to me until I got here that there was only one in English. I knew that I had them. Yeah, great. So next 2 weeks. So not in a week from Monday. Please, if you are willing, please bring your. This is in. You want to follow the Hebrew? No. Okay. Would you like to follow the Hebrew?
I like Hebrew.
Connie, what page is that, if you don't mind?
It's
592.
Great. All right, there we go.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I have an idea here. We'll see if it works. All right, everybody. I'm going to turn off this thing here.
The first Aliyah is chapter 3, verses 1 to 5.
I think it's 1 to 5.
Okay. Let's see here. All right. Can people see? Yes. Okay. All right. So it's.
Could you give the reference again, please?
Hold on 1 second. It's chapter 3, yes, and
What book?
Vayikra, Leviticus, chapter 3, beginning on whatever chapter 3, verse 1, and repeat for me, Susan, please, the Aliyah.
It's verses 1 to 5, the first
Great.
Aliyah.
Fabulous. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Can you make that a little bigger?
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, the screen's.
That better?
Yeah,
All right.
great.
All right. So we start with the blessing for Torah study. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Ve'im zevach shalamim korbano ihi min abakar hu makriv im zachar im Nikeva tamim yakrivenu lifnei Adonai v'samach. Hold on one moment here, everybody. What I'm going to do here, and that is I'm going to make this as big as possible. Boy, too many things going on here. So hopefully that's somewhat visible on the screen.
It looks good now.
Okay, good. V'samach yado al rosh korbano ushchatu petach ohel moed v'zarku b'nei Aharon hakohanim et adam al mizbeach saviv v'hikriv mizevach hashalamim ishe l'Adonai et hachelev hamechase et hakerev ve'et kol hachelev asher al hakerev ve'et shetei haklayot ve'et hachelev asher aleihem asher al ksalim v'et hayoteret al hakaved al haklayot yisichenha v'hiktiru oto v'nei Aharon hamizbecha al ha'olah asher al ha'etzim asher al ha'esh ish reach nichoach l'Adonai.
I'll do the English. If his offering is a sacrifice of well-being, if he offers of the herd, whether a male or a female, he shall bring before the Lord one without blemish. He shall lay his hand upon the head of his offering and slaughter it at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And Aaron's sons, the priests, shall dash the blood against all sides of the altar. He shall then present from the sacrifice of well-being as a gift to the Lord the fat that covers the entrails and all the fat that is about the entrails, the 2 kidneys and the fat that is on them, that is at the loins, and the protuberance on the liver, which he shall remove with the kidneys. Aaron's son shall turn these into smoke on the altar with the burnt offering, which is upon the wood that is on the fire, as a gift of pleasing odor to the Lord. The next Aliyah is verses 6 to 11.
Ve'im min hatzon korbano lez. Oh, I've switched into a wrong one. Sorry. Ve'im min hatzon korbano lezevach shalamim. I have Haftarah trope in my head. I apologize. I still have it. Oh my God, I cannot get rid of it. All right, I'm just going to read it for now. Ve'im min hatzon karbano לזרע שלמים לאדוני זכר או נקבה תמים יקריבנו עם כסף הוא מקריב את קורבנו והקריב אותו לפני אדוני ושמח את ידו על ראש קורבנו ושחט אותו לפני אוהל מועד וזרקו בני אהרון את עמו על המזבח סביב והקריב מזבח השלמים איש אל אדוני חלבו העלייה התמימה לעומת העצה יסירנה ואת החלב המכסה את הקרב ואת כל החלב אשר על הקרב ואת שתי הכליות ואת החלב אשר עליהן אשר על הכסלים ואת היותרת על הכבד על הכליות יסירנה והקטירו הכהן המזבחה לחם אישה לאדוני.
And if his offering for a sacrifice of well-being to the Lord is from the flock, whether a male or a female, he shall offer one without blemish. If he presents a sheep as his offering, he shall bring it before the Lord and lay his hand upon the head of his offering. It shall be slaughtered before the tent of meeting, and Aaron's son shall dash its blood against all sides of the altar. He shall then present as a gift to the Lord the fat from the sacrifice of well-being, a whole broad tail, which shall be removed from the backbone, the fat that covers the entrails, and all the fat that is about the entrails, the 2 kidneys and the fat that is on them, that is at the loins, and the protuberance on the liver, which he shall remove with the kidneys. The priest shall turn these into smoke on the altar as food, a gift to the Lord. Next, Elias, verses 12 to 17.
ואם עז קורבנו והקריבו לפני אדוני ושמח את ידו על ראשו ושחט אותו לפני אוהל מועד וזרקו בני אהרון את דמו על המזבח סביב והקריב ממנו קורבנו איש אל אדוני את החלב ואת החלב אשר על הקרב ואת שתי הכליות ואת החלב אשר עליהן אשר על הכסלים ואת היותרת על הכבד על הכליות יסירנה והקטירם הכהן המזבחה לחם אישה לריח ניחוח כל חלב לאדוני חוקת עולם לדורותיכם בכל מושבותיכם כל חלב וכל דם לא תאכלו.
And if his offering is a goat, he shall bring it before the Lord and lay his hand upon its head. It shall be slaughtered before the tent of meeting, and Aaron's son shall dash its blood against all sides of the altar. He shall then present as his offering from it, as a gift to the Lord, the fat that covers the entrails and all the fat that is about the entrails, the 2 kidneys and the fat that is on them, that is, at the loins, and the protuberance on the liver, which he shall remove with the kidneys. The priest shall turn these into smoke on the altar as food, a gift of pleasing odor. All fat is the Lord's. It is a law for all time throughout the ages. In all your settlements, you must not eat any fat or any blood.
Okay.
The next Aliyah is verses 1 to 7.
All right. וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל לאמור, נפש כי תחטא בשגגה מכל מצוות אדוני אשר לא תעשנה. ועשה באחת מהנה. אם הכהן המשיח יחטא לאשמת העם והקריב על חטאתו אשר חטא בין בקר תמים לאדוני לחטאת והביא את הפר אל פתח אוהל מועד לפני אדוני ושמח את ידו על ראש הפר ושחט את הפר לפני אדוני ולקח הכהן המשיח מדם הפר והביא אותו אל אוהל מועד וטבל הכהן את אצבעו בדם והיזה מן הדם 7 פעמים לפני אדוני אל פני פרוכת הקודש ונתן הכהן מן הדם על קרנות מזבח קטורת השמים לפני אדוני אשר באוהל מועד ואת כל דם הפר ישפוך אל יסוד מזבח העולם אשר פתח אוהל מועד.
The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelite people thus. When a person unwittingly incurs guilt in regard to any of the Lord's commandments about things not to be done and does one of them, if it is the anointed priest who has incurred guilt, so that blame falls upon the people, he shall offer for the sin of which he is guilty a bull of the herd without blemish as a purification offering to the Lord. He shall bring the bull to the entrance of the tent of meeting before the Lord and lay his hand upon the head of the bull. The bull shall be slaughtered before the Lord, and the anointed priest shall take some of the bull's blood and bring it into the tent of meeting. The priest shall dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle of the blood 7 times before the Lord in front of the curtain of the shrine. The priest shall put some of the blood on the horns of the altar of aromatic incense, which is in the tent of meeting before the Lord. And all the rest of the bull's blood he shall pour out at the base of the altar of burnt offering, which is at the entrance of the tent of meeting." Next to Leah is verses 8 to 12.
Okay. ואת כל חלב פר החטאת ירי ממנו את החלב המכסה על הקרב, ואת כל החלב אשר על הקרב, ואת שתי הכליות, ואת החלב אשר עליהן, אשר על הכליות, ואת היותרת על הכבד, על הכליות יסכרנה, כאשר יורם מישור זבח השלמים, והתיכרם הכהן על מזבח העולה, ואת אור הפר ואת כל בשרו על ראשו על הקרב, וקרבו ופרשו, והוציא את כל הפר אל מחוץ למחנה, אל מקום טהור, אל שפך הדשן, ושרף אותו על עצים באש, על שפך הדשן יסחרף.
He shall remove all the fat from the bull of purification offering, the fat that covers the entrails and all the fat that is about the entrails, the 2 kidneys and the fat that is on them, that is at the loins, and the protuberance on the liver, which he shall remove with the kidneys, just as it is removed from the ox of the sacrifice of well-being. The priest shall turn them into smoke on the altar of burnt offering. But the hide of the bull and all its flesh, as well as its head and legs, its entrails and its dung, all the rest of the bull he shall carry to a pure place outside the camp, to the ash heap, and burn it up in a wood fire. It shall be burned on the ash heap. Next is verses 13 to 21.
ואם כל עדת ישראל ישגו ונעלם דבר מעיני הקהל, ועשו אחת מכל מצוות אדוני אשר לא תעשנה, ואשמו, ונודעה החטאת אשר חטאו עליה, והקריבו הקהל פר בן בקר לחטאת. והביאו אותו לפני אוהל מועד, וסמכו זקני העדה את ידיהם על ראש הפר לפני אדוני, ושחט את הפר לפני אדוני, והביא הכהן המשיח מדם הפר אל אוהל מועד, וטבל הכהן אצבעו מן הדם, והזע 7 פעמים לפני אדוני את פני הפרוכת, ומן הדם ייתן על קרנות המזבח אשר לפני אדוני אשר באוהל מועד, ואת כל הדם ישפוך אל יסוד מזבח העולה אשר פתח אוהל מועד, ואת כל חלבו ירים ממנו, והקטיר המזבח. ועשה לפר כאשר עשה לפר החטאת, כן יעשה לו, וכיפר עליהם הכהן ונסלח להם. והוציא את הפר אל מחוץ למחנה, וסחרף אותו כאשר שרף את הפר הראשון, חטאת הקהל הוא.
If it is the whole community of Israel that has erred, and the matter escapes the notice of the congregation, so that they do any of the things which by the Lord's commandments ought not to be done, and they realize their guilt, when the sin through which they incurred guilt becomes known, the congregation shall offer a bull of the herd as a purification offering, and bring it before the tent of meeting. The elders of the community shall lay their hands upon the head of the bull before the Lord, and the bull shall be slaughtered before the Lord. The anointed priest shall bring some of the blood of the bull into the tent of meeting, and the priest shall dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle of it 7 times before the Lord in front of the curtain. Some of the blood he shall put on the horns of the altar, which is before the Lord in the tent of meeting, and all the rest of the blood he shall pour out at the base of the altar of burnt offering, which is at the entrance of the tent of meeting. He shall remove all its fat from it and turn it into smoke on the altar. He shall do with this bull just as is done with the priest's bull of purification offering. He shall do the same with it. Thus the priest shall make expiation for them, and they shall be forgiven. He shall carry the bull outside the camp and burn it as he burned the first bull. It is the purification offering of the congregation. And the last aliyah is still chapter 4, verses 22 to 26.
Asher nasi yecheta v'asa achat michol המצוות אדוני אלוהיו אשר לא תעשנה בשגגה ואשם הודה אליו חטאתו אשר חטא בה והביא את קורבנו שעיר עזים זכר תמים ושמח ידו על ראש השעיר ושחט אותו במקום אשר ישחט את העולה לפני אדוני חטאת הוא ולקח הכהן מדם החטאת באצבעו ונתן על קרנות מזבח העולה ואת דמו ישפוך אל יסוד מזבח העולה ואת כל חלבו יקטיר המזבח כחלב זבח השלמים וכיפר עליו הכהן מחטאתו ונסלח לו.
In case it is a chieftain who incurs guilt by doing unwittingly any of the things by which the commandment of the Lord his God ought not to be done, and he realizes his guilt, or the sin of which he is guilty is brought to his knowledge, he shall bring as his offering a male goat without blemish. He shall lay his hand upon the goat's head, and it shall be slaughtered at the spot where the burnt offering is slaughtered before the Lord. It is a purification offering. The priest shall take with his finger some of the blood of the purification offering and put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and the rest of its blood he shall pour out at the base of the altar of burnt offering. All its fat he shall turn into smoke on the altar, like the fat of the sacrifice of well-being. Thus the priest shall make expiation on his behalf for his sin, and he shall be forgiven.
All right, Yashikoach, Susan.
Yashikoach, Jim.
Thank you. We will switch now back to our thing here, the Siddur, and we will turn to page 173. And I will invite members of the congregation who are on the screen to unmute themselves, and then we will go around first the Zoom room, and then the actual room here in Brookline, and I'll ask people to say the names of the people for whom they are praying for healing. And all right, so we will get started here. Miriam, please.
Sarah bat Abigail, Eddie bat Tara, Elon ben Vered, Amy bat Rivka, Jean bat Hayedel, Jane, Nikki, Jerry, and Ben.
Thank you. Jim Leffert.
Tom Kay and Dudley Chad.
Susan Brand.
Sarah Brand, Elizabeth Brand, Judy Turner, and Jennifer Chung.
Ann.
Nathan Lambert, Alex Metz, Michelle Susan.
Petra and Lauren.
Ruth Batsara.
Sherry.
Leah bat David Meira, Ruth bat Sarah.
Norman.
Neil Danziger, Heather Plowen.
Adina, I noticed that you were unmuted before. Would you like to name someone? I will come back to Adina. Mikkel.
Norman Alexander Gibbs.
Let's see. Marcia.
Dory Schwanberg and Francine and Arnold Aaron.
Susan Cohen. We'll ask, while we're waiting for Susan and Adina, we will go around this room. Ruth, anybody? Okay, Thelma.
No.
Connie.
Rena Sarah, bat Shoshana Yirmiyahu.
And Annette.
Antaya.
Thank you. And I'll name my cousin Tamar bat Miriam and my father Jim Morgan. Susan, you're on.
Mary
Cohen.
Kellerman, Gail Weisberg.
Thank you. Okay. And Carol has now unmuted herself. Carol, go ahead, please.
Lori Wasserman and Ken Josephs.
Thank you. Great. And Adina. All right. So Norman, you're here. Would you be willing to read to sing this? Okay, you are muted. So. Page 173.
Mi sheberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Yashkoach. All right, so now we will turn to the blessings of the Haftarah, and I invite. Do we have a volunteer for the Haftarah today? we will read it in English. So we'll turn to page 175 for the blessings. Let's see. Is anyone waving at me and I'm just not aware of it? All right. So let's see. Lauren, are you willing? All right. Good. All right. So Lauren and Petra will do the blessings, and then Lauren will read the actual thing.
We're reading
And it's
Isaiah.
going to take me
We're reading Isaiah
Yes.
chapter 43, verse 21 to 44, verse 23.
Exactly, and I will put it on the screen, but it might take me a moment. So please bear with me while I get it up there.
Page 607 of the Eitz Chaim, if you're following in your book.
Start the blessing.
Please.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'neviim tovim v'ratza v'drehem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai abocher b'Torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'Yeh ha'emet v'tzedek. The people I formed for myself shall declare my praise.
Excuse me 1 second. Let me just pull this up, and so everyone can follow along. Susan, would you mind repeating what page it's on?
607.
Thank you. Okay, there we go.
The people I formed for myself shall declare my praise. But you have not worshipped me, O Jacob, that you should be weary of me, O Israel. You have not brought me your sheep for burnt offerings, nor honored me with your sacrifices. I have not burdened you with grain offerings, nor wearied you about frankincense. You have not brought me fragrant reed with money, nor sated me with the fat of your sacrifices. Instead, you've burdened me with your sins. You have wearied me with your iniquities. It is I who, for my own sake, wipe your transgressions away and remember your sins no more. Help me remember. Let us join in argument. Tell your version that you may be vindicated. Your earliest ancestor sinned, and your spokesman transgressed against me. So I profaned the holy princes. I abandoned Jacob to prescription and Israel to mockery. But hear now, O Jacob, my servant, Israel, whom I have chosen. Thus said the Lord your maker, your creator who has helped you since birth. Fear not, my servant Jacob, Jeshurun, whom I have chosen. Even as I pour water on thirsty soil and rain upon dry ground, so will I pour my spirit on your offspring, my blessing upon your posterity, and they shall sprout like grass, like willows by watercourses. One shall say, I am the Lord's. Another shall use the name of Jacob. Another shall mark his arm of the Lord and adopt the name of Israel. Thus said the Lord, the King of Israel, the Redeemer, the Lord of hosts, I am the first and I am the last, and there is no God but me. Who like me can announce, can foretell it, and match me thereby? Even as I've told the future to an ancient people, so let him foretell coming events to them. Do not be frightened, do not be shaken. Have I not from of old predicted to you? I foretold, and you are my witnesses. Is there any God then but me? There is no other rock. I know none. The makers of idols all work to no purpose, and the things they treasure can do no good. As they themselves can testify, they neither look nor think, and so they shall be shamed. Who would fashion a god or cast a statue that can do no good? Lo, all its adherents shall be shamed. Their craftsmen are merely human. Let them all assemble and stand up. They shall be cowed and they shall be shamed. The craftsman in iron with his tools works it over charcoal and fashions it by hammering, working with the strength of his arm. Should he go hungry, his strength would ebb. Should he drink no water, he would grow faint. The craftsman in wood measures with a line and marks out a shape with a stylus. He forms it with scraping tools, marking it out with a compass. He gives it a human form, the beauty of a man to dwell in a shrine. For his use, he cuts down cedars, he chooses plane trees and oaks, he sets aside trees of the forests, or plants firs, and the rain makes them grow. All this serves man for fuel. He takes some to warm himself, and he builds a fire and bakes bread. He also makes a god of it and worships it, fashions an idol and bows down to it. Part of it he burns in a fire. On that part he roasts meat. He eats the roast and is sated. He also warms himself and cries, "Ah, I am so warm, I can feel the heat." Of the rest he makes a god, his own carving. He bows down to it, worships it, he prays to it and cries, "Oh, save me, for you are my God." They have no wit or judgment. Their eyes are besmeared and they see not. Their minds and they cannot think. They do not give thought. They lack the wit and judgment to say, "Part of it I burned in a fire. I also baked bread on the coals. I roasted meat and ate it. Should I make the rest in abhorrence? Should I bow to a block of wood?" He pursues ashes. A deluded mind has led him astray, and he cannot save himself. He never says to himself, "The thing in my hand is a fraud." Remember these things, O Jacob, for you, O Israel, are my servant. I fashioned you. You are my servant. O Israel, never forget me. I wipe away your sins like a cloud, your transgressions like mist. Come back to me, for I redeem you. Shout, O heavens, for the Lord has acted. Shout aloud, O depths of the earth. Shout for joy, O mountains, O forests with all your trees. For the Lord has redeemed Jacob, has glorified himself through Israel. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, sur kol haolamim, tzadik b'kol hadorot, ha'el haneman, ha'omer ve'oseh, hamdaber u'mkayem, shekol divarav emet v'tzedek, ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu, v'nimamnin devarecha, v'davar echad midvarecha, Achor lo yashuv rekam, ki el melech ne'eman, v'rachaman ata, baruch ata Adonai, ha'el haneman b'kol devarav, rachem al Tzion, ki hibit ba'enu, v'leluvat nefesh toshia, b'mhera yamenu, baruch ata Adonai, Nesameach Tzion bevaneha, Samheinu Adonai Eloheinu, Eliyahu Hanavi Abdecha, U'b'malchut Beit David Mishahecha, b'mhera yavo v'yagel libenu, al kiso lo yeshev zar, v'lo yinhalo et od aharam et kavodo, ki b'shem Kotracha nishbata lo, shelo yikbe nero leolam va'et, baruch ata Adonai, magen David, al haTorah, ve'al ha'avodah, ve'al halevim, ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, likdusha v'linucha, lehavod u'letifaret, Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim la, u'mefarchim otach, yitbarach shimcha b'fi kol hai, tamid leolam va'ed, baruch ata Adonai, mekadesh ha'shabbat. Amen.
Yasher koach. So before we turn to a brief discussion of the Torah the Torah portion, I will ask Anne if she is willing to read a prayer for our country, which is found on page 177. And I can take the Chumashim back.
Our God and God of our fathers, with mercy accept our prayer on behalf of our country and its government. Pour out your blessings upon this land, upon its inhabitants, upon its leaders, its judges, officers, and officials. Faithfully devote themselves to the need of the public. Help them understand the rules of justice you have decreed. Peace and security, happiness and freedom will never depart from our land. Adonai, God whose spirit is in all creatures, pray that your spirit be awakened within all the inhabitants of our land. Root from our hearts hatred and malice, jealousy and strife. Plant love and companionship, peace and friendship among the many peoples and faiths that dwell in our nation. Grant us the knowledge to judge justly, wisdom to act with compassion, and understanding and courage to root out poverty from our land. May it be your will that our land be a blessing to all who dwell on earth. And you cause all peoples to dwell in friendship and freedom. Speedily fulfill the vision of your prophets. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. All of them, from the least of them to the greatest, shall know me. And let us say, Amen.
Amen. All right, so we will stop our share. And I will invite people to make comments about the Torah portion. Please raise your hand electronically if you are in a Zoom space, but if you're in this room, please feel free just to raise your actual hand. It would be very exciting. Go ahead, Jim.
There's a lot of very arcane details here about the sacrifices, and it was a very interesting point that's made by Robert Alter in his commentary about these sacrifices, which are intended for either the priest or the people to eat, to consume as food. First of all, he cites Nachmanides, the Ramban, who said that the three sections of the tabernacle, there's three different parts to the tabernacle, correspond to the three different parts of Mount Sinai: the top that only Moses went to, the slopes where Aaron and his sons and the elders got to go, and then the perimeter for the people. And then he points out that following that idea, Mary Douglas, the anthropologist, suggested that the different parts of the animal that are designated to be consumed in different ways are in fact analogous to that. So that you have certain foods that are just for the priests, and they are sort of the summit. And then you have other foods, other parts of the animal that are lower, and then you have yet other parts of the animal that are lower still. And then she says that the prohibition against eating the fat has to be burned at the altar, is equivalent to the perimeter, the boundary that was set to keep the people distant from the mountain itself. And that's why the fat, which covers these organs, is not supposed to be consumed at all, but to be placed on the altar. So that was a very interesting way of trying to understand all these details. I just summarized it quickly.
Thank you, Jim. Other comments? Go ahead, Mikkel.
Just to add to that, Jim, I think that Mary Douglas, am I right, that she also makes a similar kind of analysis about the shape of the whole Torah itself, that there's a kind of inner sanctum that the Torah moves toward. Now, of course, I cannot remember exactly which parsha it is, but I think it's maybe the Holy of Holies parsha. And then the Torah sort of backs you out of it. So she seems to have the desire to make this a kind of unified vision.
Thank you, Mikkel. Any other comments? Go ahead, Mikkel. Sorry, I just muted you. Oh, and then Helene. Mikkel, you're up, and then Helene. You're muted, though. I'm sorry, I muted you in my zeal.
If somebody else has something to say, then let them go ahead. I've already.
Okay, so Helene, and then Mikkel.
So here I am deficient in my memory of Purity and Danger, the book that you are citing, but I am confused. So I'm wondering, and so if you can help me remember, that would be great, Mikkel and Jim. The fat is pleasing to the Lord. The fat and the kidneys and the entrails and everything that the laws of kashrut, not yet given in the order of the text, will be forbidden, is pleasing to the Lord. So nothing goes wasted, but the things that you would waste in daily life are good for the Lord. And I find this, I'm looking for an explanation for this, either through Douglas or anyone else.
God keeps the best things for God's self.
It's certainly a neat solution, an elegant solution, as mathematicians would say.
Yes.
Sue it yourself.
It's a great
Oh.
solution. Yeah. Go ahead, Miriam.
The prohibition on fat, I really have no explanation for, except that it's sort of burning it. You would get the effect of a barbecue, that literally delicious odor, and maybe they had some association with it. I think the prohibition on the blood has to do with its association with the sacred, that this is the life force. So perhaps the idea that one might consume it as part of one's diet, to the ancients felt like a form of cannibalism.
Maybe. Yeah, good. Thank you, everyone.
Mikkel, do you want to add? And then I see Norman.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mikkel.
Let Norman speak. I have something to say to connect this to a parsha we read earlier. So
Great. Okay, so
Norman
elucidated it for us, and then Mikkel will take us out of the blood and guts for a minute.
I just want to remind people that after the flood, when Noah and his sons come out and they spontaneously build an altar to give thanks, and and they burn. Miriam was just talking about the fat being the nicest part of this, the most fragrant part when you burn it, and it's part of. So God smelled the pleasing aroma, and it's then that God realizes, oh, I guess these people that I created, maybe they've got this evil in their hearts from the beginning, which also, since they're in God's image, that must mean that evil is also in God. But God is a long time lover of this aroma, and it's then that seems to bring about the covenant that he makes with human beings. That's all.
Thank you, Norman.
Okay.
So, Mikkel, you get the last word, unless someone else is champing at the bit.
You champ it a bit or chomp it a bit? Actually, that's not. I have questions, but that isn't it. I think to connect this sacrifice, a couple weeks ago, we read about how the Torah tells us to behave during Pesach, which is coming up, and it seems to me that we read a couple things. I think we read something about those who have the means are to bring a goat or a sheep or something of that order to make sure that everybody has that kind of meat to eat. Did we read that, or did I misunderstand it? That's question one. Question two, I think we read that you're instructed to eat the Passover feast standing up with your staff in your hand and your sandals on your feet. In other words, ready to move at a moment's notice, with nothing.
Having girded your loins, you have to be ready.
Your loins too. And so this leads me in two different directions, and I'd love some clarity and some comment from people. One direction is that the Seder that we perform, of course, tells us, to do exactly the opposite of what the Torah tells us. And that's very striking to me because our rituals hardly ever tell us to do exactly the opposite of what the Torah does. It tells us we are to recline, we are essentially to ungird, and so that's quite striking. I don't know what it means really. And the other direction this takes me is the Muslim feast, Eid al-Adha, is also, people are enjoined to, they're mandated to make sure that everybody in the community gets to eat and feast on lamb or goat, or, you know, these animals are sacrificed at dawn, and everyone is provided. Wealthy people buy these animals and they feed the poor. And I've seen it, and it happens. So Eid al-Adha is a celebration of the sacrifice of Abraham. So that then made me try to sort of wonder, how is Abraham, who goes up to his mountain ready to sacrifice his son and instead sacrifices the ram, how is that connected to the Seder and to the kind of this notion that the only thing I could come up with is this idea that at certain moments you do not tarry, you gird your loins and you ready yourself, whatever the cost. But I just wonder if anybody else has anything to make of this sort of babble of mine, and if not, I won't be surprised.
No, the one thing that comes to mind in your, at least your second question, as I was counting them, is, I mean, it feels to me that the rabbis are very often into sort of experiential learning, and the fact that we remember, because I think we are actually enjoined to remember at some point, right, that we were supposed to read, that we were supposed to be ready to leave. And I know that there are, you know, I have friends in Israel who follow the Sephardic custom of having the kids dress up as slaves and walk around the Seder table, to sort of remind them of the state that we were in Egypt. But you know, but look at us now, you know, reclining on pillows, and ungirded, and with our shoes not fastened to our feet, so on and so forth. So maybe the contrast is intentional.
It seems like maybe what one connection between Passover and Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, which is where we associate the sacrifice of Abraham, is, aren't they both considered the very beginning of the year? One is the agricultural year, perhaps the other, but I mean, we're told here that the year begins with Passover, and both seem to connect to this kind of very, very important sacrificial moment.
Yeah. Yes. Adina, did you want to say something?
Well, I think originally it was done b'chipazon in the home, and then when in temple times, when people had to, you know, make an aliyah to Jerusalem, everything took longer, and they had to know how to sacrifice properly, and everything took more time. I think, you know, some of that had to do with, you know, and what you said about leaning, the time, you know, that's when leaning came into things. There was a shift from the amount of time things took to do it properly, to know how to sacrifice, exactly all the rules of sacrifice and how to do it in temple times. So I think we have both in our tradition.
Yeah.
There's, you know, this sense of chipazon and of leaning and relaxation. And
great. I'm gonna suggest that since it's almost noon, The people who have other comments, hold them. I know you can't write anything down at Shabbos, but try to remember them. And after we've done our service, finished our services, and let people who would like to say Kaddish. And Baba Ann, great to see you. We will hear the comments of those who didn't have a chance to finish their thoughts. So we will turn back now to page 199. For Yismechu. All right. Yismechu v'malchutecha shomrei Shabbat v'kor'ei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutecha shomrei Shabbat v'kor'ei oneg Shabbat. Mekadosh sheli Shabbat. Etam yisbehu v'yatanugu mituvecha Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutecha shomrei Shabbat v'kor'ei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutecha shomrei Shabbat v'kor'ei oneg Shabbat. V'shvi ratzitavo v'kidashto Shabbat. Chemdad yamim oto karata Shabbat. Ad yismechu v'malchutecha shomrei Shabbat v'kor'ei oneg Shabbat. Ad yismechu v'malchutecha shomrei Shabbat v'kor'ei oneg Shabbat. Zecher l'ma'aseh b'reshit Shabbat. Zecher l'ma'aseh b'reshit Shabbat. Okay, page 201. Asim shalom tova uveracha chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael amecha barecheinu avinu kulanu ke'echad Be'or panecha barecheinu avinu kulanu ke'echad Be'or panecha kivor panecha natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu tochat ha'im Yahavat chesed u'tzedaka u'veracha v'rachamim v'chaim v'shalom v'tov be'enecha levarech et amecha levarech et amecha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך יאללה לה 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 יאללה לה יאללה לה יאללה לה יאללה לה לה יאללה לה יאללה לה יאללה לה יאללה לה Okay, page 204. En Keloheinu, en Kadonenu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kemoshienu, Miranodo, non nuestro Lord, non como nuestro Rey, non como nuestro Salvador. Mi Eloheinu, mi Kadonenu, mi Kemalkeinu, mi Kemoshienu, ken como nuestro Dios. Ken como nuestro Señor, ken como nuestro Rey, ken como nuestro Salvador. No del Eloheinu, no del Adonenu, no del Malkeinu, no del Moshienu, lo haremos nuestro Dios, lo haremos nuestro Señor, lo haremos nuestro Rey, lo haremos nuestro Salvador. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, bendicho nuestro Dios, bendicho nuestro Señor, bendicho nuestro Rey, bendicho nuestro Salvador. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, tu el nuestro Dios, tu el nuestro Señor, tu el nuestro Rey, tu el nuestro Salvador. All right, so I invite you to rise on page 205 for the Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלאכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. We may be seated. שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו. וידעת היום וישבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינו. על כן נכבד לך אדוני אלוהינו לרב מהרה תפארת זכר, עיר גלילי מן הארץ. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יחיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. All right, so we will be turning to page 207 for our mourner's Kaddish, but I invite everyone who would like to remember someone to say that person's name as we go around the room. The only person I see with his mute off in the Zoom room is Jerry. So go ahead, Jerry.
Carol Cohen.
Adina, did you want to name someone?
Yes, Martin Cates.
Martin Cates. Okay. Anyone in the room here have a yard site? No. Okay. All right. So I invite the people to rise and for Kaddish if they would like. And Adina and Jerry, feel free to lead us in the Mourner's Kaddish. Amen.
Alma Dizrach Yute, Yamlich Malchute, B'chaye Chon, B'yomei Chon, B'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, B'zman Kariv, B'yimru.
Amen. Yehei Shei Rab V'Ra, V'Elam V'Olmei Amaya.
Yitanan Yitnase, Yitadar, Yitalev, Yitalal, Shmei, Kisha, Ela, Ninkol, Birchata, V'Shirata, Tishbachata, V'Nechmata, Damiran Ba'alma, V'Imru, Amen.
Amen.
Inshmaya, V'Chayim Aleinu, V'Yakol Yisrael.
Amen.
Oseh Shalom B'Mulav, V'Yaseh Shalom V'Yakol Yisrael.
Yimru. Amen.
Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Mulav, Ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael. All right, so Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming and being with us, including our three chalutzim or chalutzot here in Brookline. It's wonderful to have the group. Really appreciate you being here and putting up with the technical struggles. Let's see. I'm going to ask Jim to make his usual announcements.
Mm-hmm. You know, Rabbi Jim has organized the opportunity for people to ask to be included in someone's Seder, or to offer to put a place for a virtual Seder guest. And he has a place on a document that you can access on the web to specify one or both of those things for either Saturday night or Sunday night of Pesach. So I just want to call your attention to that people are welcome, as Michal was, I think it was, who was saying that everybody should have the opportunity to eat and join. That's number one.
At least in a spiritual sense.
In a spiritual sense. Also, okay, so then we have a couple of interesting things coming up. Our book group has postponed our next meeting until April 4th. And the reason for that is that we can everybody can get a chance to read and finish the mystery novel Murder Duet by Bat Shagur. So at 7:30, following possible Mariv service at 7 on April 4th, the book group 1,000,001 Book is going to be meeting. And then a week later at 7 o'clock is the service, and then 7:30 is the event. We have our next Shmooze and Learn, our own Ben Friedman, celebrated economics professor at Harvard and a member of our minyan and former chairman of the board of Hillel, is going to be joining us to talk about the topic about the afterlife, not the afterlife following the pandemic, but the actual afterlife. And how it originated within Judaism and how Christianity, how it developed, that Christianity got it from Judaism and where they took it. So he's going to talk about the afterlife on the 11th, which is another Sunday evening. So hope you can all be there for that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jim. Any other announcements from members of the, I'm sorry, man.
Jim, do you want to tell people when we're doing Pesach services?
Yes, yeah, that's a good idea. We will be having a Seder here here virtually at CCB. So if you're stuck and you don't have one and you'd like to join us, it's at 6 o'clock. It'll be in English, it'll be in Hebrew, and it'll be in Russian. I'll have the guitar, and so we'll sing and do that kind of a Seder. Should be a lot of fun. So feel free to join. That's early at 6 o'clock on Saturday, and then on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, the usual time, we will have first day of Passover services. Those will be at Dinesh at 100 Center Street in Brookline. And then on Monday, again at 10 o'clock, we'll be back here at 1550 Beacon Street for the second day of Passover. And I hope that you'll consider joining us on the second day as well to make sure we have a minyan. We will have, I'm hoping, I cannot promise, but I'm hoping that our rabbinic intern, Rachel Tali Kaplan, will be here to assist with the services. If that can happen, then that means we will actually, God willing, be able to read at least some of the Torah from an actual Torah scroll. So that's one of the reasons why we need a minyan especially on the second day. I'm not worried so much about the first day, but for the second day, we will definitely need help making a minyan. It would be just amazing to be able to read the Torah from a scroll for the first time in a year. So looking forward to that. We are not yet at the place where I can welcome folks from the minyan into our building. It's a little bit complicated yet for me to do that. If you are interested in doing that at some point, please let me know, and I will have to register you as a volunteer, which is more than possible. So let me know if you would like to come in to the building, and just so you know that everyone, all the residents here have been vaccinated, and so if you've also had a vaccination, we will still be, as you can see, I'm having a hard time breathing through my mask, but that's part of the game here.
Excuse me, only 93%.
Only 93%, but I'm gonna take it on some amount of faith that that the people who have not been vaccinated are not showing up for services.
So are these services going to be Zoomed, or are they only going to be in-person services?
They will be both. The services, that's why I'm asking people to show up on Zoom, because for the foreseeable future, we will have services in person at 100 Center Street and 1550 Beacon Street, but I'm not imagining that the most people will be coming from outside to these services for now, so we will continue to Zoom them as we have for the last year. Go ahead, Mikkel.
Is there any, Rabbi Jim, is there any discussion about reopening Harvard Hill at any point, or not yet?
I have not heard any talk of that. The person who would be best equipped to tell us that is Mark. Since he's not here, I don't know. I am naively assuming that because Harvard has announced that there will be increased in-person classes beginning in September with the new semester, that's when the building will be open, and then we will have to come up with some sort of plan about how we as a minyan are going to manage that, because I do not imagine that even in September that everyone in the minyan will be comfortable coming in for in-person services. So we will need to figure out exactly how we will manage that new reality. So I'm not going to say it's a new normal, because I think it's not going to be any more normal than this. It'll just be a different thing. So it'll be a different reality. But we'll figure it out. We figured out many more things than I thought we would already. So I'm sure we can figure out something else. Any other thoughts, announcements? All right. So we will close with a Don Olam, which is on page 211, I believe. Okay. Adon Olam Hashem alaf b'terem kol yitzir nifra li'et nasa be'etzoko azai melech shemo nikra azai melech shemo nikra le'acharei kichot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu והוא יחיה בתפארה, והוא יחיה בתפארה, והוא אחד ואין שני להמשילו, להכבירה בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמסחרה, ולא העוז והמסחרה, והוא אלי וחי גורלי וצור כבלי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי מנת כוסי ביום מקרה, מנת כוסי ביום מקרה, בידו הפקיד רוחי ואת אישן באיפרה והמרוחי גביעתי אדוני לי ולא אירע, Adonai li v'lo yichra. Shabbat shalom, Norman. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
All right, so I will. I am willing to stick around here for a minute or two to hear people's comments and questions from about the Torah portion. But thank you, everyone. Thank you, Thelma and Connie. for being here in person. It's so lovely to share Shabbat with folks, and so glad you were all here. So good Shabbos, everybody.
You have to reserve.
Good Shabbos, everyone.
Good Shabbos, everybody.
No,
Rabbi Jim, it was
all on Zoom.
very
All
pleasant
on Zoom. No.
to hear the group singing. The people who were there in person all come through as one in a chorus. And
Yes.
that's so nice of a normal service for all of us.
It really makes a difference.
Did they get together on Zoom? I mean, did they get together in person like us?
Yes. So this is the minyan at Harvard that has
On 100 Center Street.
Nope. This is well, it's a mix. There's 100 Center Street people. Helen is from 100 Center Street, and Ann, and there's usually a few more from 100 Center Street. But Susan is from 1550. Susan Cohen, and Marty is from Belmont, I think, and. So this is the group that usually meets at Harvard, and we switched to Zoom.
Yeah.
The Shabbos after Purim,
right?
And there are still members we don't see very often because they don't use technology on Shabbos.
Yeah.
But we're getting there. It's.
I thought they were all from.
It's an amazing group, as you can see. It's a wonderful group. Yeah. So.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Marty, it's a nice cabinet you got there. Wow.
Shabbat shalom.
Good Shabbos, Norman.
Shabbat
Shabbos.
Shabbat
So,
shalom.
Mikkel, you want? No, I'm sorry. It was Miriam. Miriam had a comment, and then Jim had a comment. So we'll start with those two. Yeah, go ahead, Marty. But Marty, let's. Yeah, Marty, that's fine. Let's hear Miriam, and then Jim, and then Marty is fine.
Okay, in response to Mikkel's question about the things that are described in the Maftir that we read a couple of weeks ago that are different from the Seder, I would say to me it's partly that, as is very usual in Torah, they're conflating the time period. So and partly what we're to do later to commemorate it. But the reclining at the Seder was copied from the conduct of the room. The nobles at their feet would be reclining as servants waited on them, and nobody else got to recline. So at the Seder, each of us is a noble, each reclining to savor the relaxation and freedom.
Great. I just wanted to add a couple of things. First of all, I really appreciated Adina's comment about the orderly processions of activities that they had in Jerusalem back when the temple stood, and it was not a hurried thing. But it did involve a pilgrimage, and it did involve people actually moving to go there. But two things. First of all, my understanding is that the practice of celebrating the new year in the spring is a very, very ancient practice, and that setting aside the Rosh Hashanah and Nisan as the beginning of the year is a later development in Israelite culture. So that was an earlier thing, and that the rabbis, of course, had 4 New Years. They preserved those traditions, and they actually listed 4 different New Years, including the New Year's for the trees, for example. But the other thing I wanted to say is that the Seder, as Miriam is pointing out and really expressed well, is a totally different animal than pardon the expression, as how Passover was celebrated when the temple still stood. And there was a conscious effort to create a totally different service. But in some respects, it harks back to the temple service in certain ways. It follows things that happened in the temple service. But in other respects, it's very different. And as recently, some of us read the novel The Orchard, and that point about the rabbinic invention of the Seder is very strongly emphasized there. But one of the things about the rabbinic period, which is when Rome was ruling, was that many of the rabbis did not want the people to be rising up any further and rebelling against the Romans. And so they were talking about a redemption that's in the future. And the last thing I think they would have wanted would be people, sitting there with sticks in their hands, ready to jump up at the slightest and be redeemed. They really, following the rebellion again in 70 and also following the rebellion in 135, both of which were terribly put down and caused great tragedy for the people. They wanted the redemption to be seen as in the future. And so I think that the idea that people were reclining that evening was of great comfort to the rabbis. I'll just leave it there.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Jim.
I was interested in the focus on animal fat and how our attitudes towards fat are still, we still have a focus on fat, and how my doctor would have given God some Lipitor.
Or he would have commended the rabbis for coming up with a reason that we shouldn't be eating it.
Fat, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, but sometimes it does smell good.
But we still prize it. But now we abstain from it just as they did.
Anyhow, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Great.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Jim, this is Marty.
Yes.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Jim? Yeah.
Well, you're talking to Jim Leffert or Jim Morgan?
Yeah, Jim no, Jim,
Yeah.
Jim Morgan.
Oh, because I don't see Jim Morgan physically here. His
Okay.
window is here, but not him. Oh, here he is.
Okay, why don't you, Jim Morgan?
Rabbi Jim, you've been called, summoned.
Can you get him?
Yeah, he's here. Rabbi Jim, Marty has something he wants to say to you.
Yeah, call him again.
Rabbi Jim. Rabbi Jim, you have to chat. You have to chat with him. Chat with him.
Jim, this is Marty. Did you get my note that I sent you in email a couple of days ago? Jim? Jim Morgan?
All right. Well, anyway,
Rabbi
Sherry and I
Jim?
are going to go in the meantime, or I'm going to.
There he is. Jim? Hi, it's Marty. Can you hear me? Jim, this is Marty. Can you hear me? You're mute. Jim, you're mute.
Hello?
Yeah, hi, Jim. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. I just wondered whether you got that little note that I sent.
I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to respond yet, but
No. There's nothing to respond to. I just wanted to be sure that you got it. So I think that's good. It splits the difference. You can leave and others take over, and it feels more continuous or full.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for a nice service today. Okay.
great. I thought it went really well, and I was it was a little touch and go there with the technology, but it seemed to work itself out. Thank God.
Yeah, no, it was fine. It was fine. Okay. All right, we'll see you next week. Be well. How are your boys, Jim?
I'm sorry?
How are your boys doing?
They're doing great. Moses is off for a weekend trip, and Samson's actually town, so they're doing good. How's your daughter?
Okay, good. All right, be well, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty.